Hey guys, it's SD, your host of the Life Picks Relationship podcast, where people with all sorts of backgrounds, challenges, and life experience show us how they make their relationship extraordinary. Hey guys, we're here today with Lindsey Sherwin, a child and family therapist who brings role playing and all sorts of arts into her work. How you doing today, Lindsey?
Hi, ST. I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
Let's begin with why relationships are so important. What do you think of when it comes to relationships?
Yeah, that's a great question. Relationships are super important because they really lay the foundation for everything that we create in our lives. And they're really just the building of people and their emotions and how they respond to each other. I mean, it's such a combination of, meeting our needs, but also like being aware of ourselves and how we connect. And that's all anybody wants anyway. So they're almost integral in who we are.
Yeah, as humans, a basic need is to connect. So, intimate relationship is the best way that could happen. By dating and meeting new people, are there specific patterns that you see or things that you learned personally?
Yeah, definitely. I'm in the dating scene now, and although I'm not in a committed relationship, I feel like just noticing how people respond and react to how they first connect with someone. So, for example, you'll start out like talking, maybe like talking, usually texting, right? You'll meet someone and you don't really know why they catch your eye. Like they might think you're physically attracted. Sometimes, if we're talking about men, like they'll say something to, make sure like they sound suave with you or like get your attention. And then the woman will respond to that. I think as a process, I want to talk more about that because I've really learned how to communicate through dating, and there is a way to do it. I think there is, and it does help to maintain that connection over time. It might not last like after you meet the person, but I think a lot of people have trouble with even just getting a date or like going out and meeting someone they don't know if they haven't been introduced. You really don't know why people stop in the process, but I think the reason, if we're talking about how it works in the beginning, even just primary, a way of making yourself available is to really be authentic and to spice things up with like your personality. And when I say spice things up, I mean like be fun, be playful. Even if that's not who you are, there's so many women that they are really like that, but they don't want to show that to a man because they don't want to appear like they're not smart or they're silly or they're just kind of in a space of not being serious. But that's really how men react to a woman. And when I say react, that's what they want. They want to be like relaxed and feel good. And I think if you're, especially as an entrepreneur and something just about me, I'm a real go-getter type of woman. I'm entrepreneurial, I'm independent. I think many women, interested in these things and starting their own businesses, their own projects, they take that with them in the dating scene does carry over. And so really training yourself on how to connect in a playful, spontaneous, spirited way and being creative, even though you're not naturally, maybe, I think we're all like that, but you got to really dig deep within yourself to say, maybe not in the moment, like, what should I say? Oh, I have to text him something cool or funny. Like, you want to be yourself, but it's that tricky combination of being yourself, but also like saying something that is going to like make you feel good. And that's usually witty and creative. And so, just to kind of answer fully, with what you said about connecting and how do you find a relationship in this world today. I think it's really about keeping that going and reciprocating, but also being clear about your boundaries. Like I'm in a situation right now where like I've been doing that and it's been going really well. And this particular guy is really highly emotionally intelligent. So he knows how to text a lot and ask a lot of questions, right? And like really want to know about me. Some guys don't want to do that. They just either want to get right to it, get physical pretty quickly, or they just want to like compliment you. So we've been chatting for a couple months and we met once, for example. And then now it's kind of slowing down. And now I'm at the stage where I'm like kind of less interested in the playfulness. Like I still do it, but I'm more interested in like, what are you looking for? So again, it's really about being your authentic self, being playful, being creatively spirited, but also like showing you have a personality and that you're interested in somebody wanting to connect with you, because they can't know that if you don't show that side of you, right? You have to bring it out and want to bring it out in that way, and mean it, but also being clear about your boundaries in a positive way where they get to see that, like they know you respect yourself. So it's kind of hard to do that, but that's really what I think it's about.
So, do you think everyone is fun and witty the way you're describing? Because you're also saying to be authentic, and if somebody doesn't have that personality, that is not being authentic.
Right. No, that's a great question. I think you can tap into it. I think, a lot of like what you and I share, for example, is and how we connected is being artistic, like being into the arts, right? Like photography. I'm an actor and a poet. I dance, I model, I do all of the arts basically. I don't play an instrument actually, but and it's interesting for me because I can speak from a personal level. I mean, there is like science to back this up about how the art does change your brain and it improves your ability to connect with people and, develop your flexibility and your spontaneity and like your humor and, all these things. It creates neural pathways in the brain to be more open and like yourself and all those great things, right? But like if we're looking at the art of it and not the science, the art is really, I think, more about you need to train yourself. And I think going back to your question, when I say train yourself, you have to practice it. Like you might not have those qualities. And I think as an artist, we naturally do have them buried within. I was always like a timid actor, for example, and there are actors like that where like I'm not really social, but like if I'm asked to perform, you will see me fully because it's in within me, right? If you take a picture like of somebody, you might not, it's a little bit of a different kind of art form, but like you might not be fully flamboyant with it and like so outrageously showing, and demonstrative, but you can blow things up to show people what you want from them. Like it's almost when you're dealing with this combination of people and art, you need to be specific and you need to really open it up, because if you stay hidden and buried, people can't see and they can't know. And I had that pattern a long time where I wanted to be that timid artist. And now that I've been more exposed to like improvisation and like really, and it's all about personal development too, like your worth, right? Your value that you put on yourself. Once you have that, you don't really care. I mean, like something happens to you where you don't really care if somebody leaves because you're doing so great in life. I know that it's hard when you're still stuck in that place where you're like, I need this person because they're just so amazing, they're so wonderful, like they have to be a part of my life because this is what I deserve. It's like nobody deserves that. You deserve what you've earned through your process.
Yeah, and going back to the creativity, like you said, I think everyone has some sort of creativity, fun, spiritedness into them. Just so many people, it's crushed and buried underneath. If you let it come out, there's someone out there that will connect to it. So, what's the best relationship advice you've ever gotten?
That's a great question. Yeah, I like that question because I feel like it really resonates with how I now view relationships and what I've learned from my mentors and coaches that I listen to. And so I would say my best relationship advice that I've ever gotten was to really make sure you know what you want. Actually, a friend of mine just said this today, like, what do you want? What is your intention? And sometimes that gets muffled, I think. For example, like with this person I was talking about before, as an example, in my experience with dating now, I thought I wanted something more of a friendship. And then it goes back and forth to like more personal. And then like the behavior changes, right? If somebody's behavior changes, then we kind of shift what we want because they're not showing us, what we feel we need. And that's impulsive. Like if we're not getting our needs met, we do things to justify that. And sometimes we don't know what that is, why that is. We just, because our body is just responding and reacting to what we receive in the world. It's like a stimuli. So, and back to the question of what's the best advice, be clear on what you want. That's not always easy, but it's essential, because if you're not clear and you haven't told yourself, like I often, for example, I write down in my journal affirmations of what I want, or I see the end, right? I do a lot of spiritual processing of like seeing and living in the end, which is like a concept that Neville Goddard spoke about, who's one of my favorite. He's not really a mentor, but he is like a speaker. I'm not sure if you've heard of him, but he's wonderful. Along with like Wayne Dyer cohort of people. Yeah. And he talks about living in the end. And so like you gotta kind of say, like, this is what I see for myself. Sometimes it won't always take place, but that clarity and that ability to let go, it's super difficult. And also I think letting go with patience, to say this is not over. I think from my personal experience as a woman, and I don't know any female listeners out there who are thinking to themselves, yeah, that's my issue too. Like I am so hell bent and, determined and adamant to like stick with this person regardless, because there's a need that I have. We don't even know why we're doing that to ourselves. Like, why are we gripping to a cord that we don't even really know? Like, we do that because there is something in us, this is back to the psychology end of it, which is pretty important with this stuff, because we're reacting and responding. It's not, just about like, oh, I like him and, I need this because I like him. Like, it's beyond that. It's more about like, we are doing this because something is missing. And so the advice again in that area of it is to let go with patience, knowing that they could come back, right? Or they could develop something more with you on another level. But ask yourself why you want that, right? What is the purpose of having this person in your life? I mean, we all want relationships, but like if it's going to be intimate and romantic, why do they deserve a spot?
Yeah. What was the hardest lesson you learned while dating and going through
Mm.
relationships?
Love that question too. I think that the hardest lesson I learned, especially going through challenging, tumultuous relationships that caused me a lot of distress and emotional discomfort, and even physical, like, a bunch of different things happened. And I think in those times and in those circumstances. And so I would say it's just knowing that I wanted to give up and it wasn't right for me, but continuing to go with it. That was the most difficult, because I knew it was not for me, but I didn't have that inner strength at the time to say, you know what, I deserve, and not even, I'm very careful about this word deserve, because I don't really believe we deserve. I believe we get back what we put out, right? And so that's a concept that it's hard to challenge because it's universal. It's the world responding again to our actions and our thoughts. People talk a lot about beliefs and thoughts, and we become what we think about, right? And so even if I was thinking about wanting better and writing down quotes and posting, all these positive affirmations and acting in a way that showed that I deserved more, quote unquote, right? That I was in a position to get a relationship that met my standard, I still didn't. And it was hard to accept that. It was really, really difficult. And that's what really got me into like the psychology of people, and specifically, psychology in general, working with youth and families, but also with couples and relationships, because it was more of an emotional thing, not just like as opposed to being rejected or put down. I mean, of course, those are hard, challenging circumstances, but more than that, I felt that because I couldn't admit that it was wrong and that, I wasn't meeting my own standard, that was the hardest to accept.
If only life was so easy. We post these things, say positive affirmations, and we get what we want. But we have to do work. We have to take action. We have to change ourselves inside, and then we could really get what we want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so all those other things, I just want to add those responses or consequences that people give us, like they reject, they put us down, narcissism, right? And drinking, smoking, all these behaviors that are poor, and treat us poorly. That's all an effect of what we believe about ourselves. We're just getting that because that's what we think we want. And it's hard to accept that, because I said, oh, I'm a smart person. I'm, better than that. I have a great job, but I'm still maintaining this. Why? You got to ask yourself, why do you have that in your life? You attracted that. You know, you need it at that time. And a lot of those people, I'll just say, said to me, this is what you're attracting in not so many ways. Actually, I had one guy say, this is what you're ready for, and you'll never get any better. And then when I left, you know, and we had this like breakup call, and he said to me, you know, I hope you learned a lot, and I hope you get what you want in life, and best of luck. I mean, there was just no going back, but I knew that. But I actually appreciated that, because after that dropped, I maybe went through some tops and turns, you know, but I found my way.
Yeah, you have to live through it, learn your lessons, and get to where you are today. Anything else you want to share with us?
I just say, like, in general, I just want to leave you with, like, to build strong relationship, I would give some advice in terms of how I've done that, and that's to just talk to like 2 or 3 people every day. So whether it be on the apps or where you meet people outside, you know, in your community, at work, use positive, affirming words when you speak to people. And look at your tone. Look at how you're speaking to people. Are you assertive? Are you defensive? Like, just be mindful of your language and see how that shifts your experiences.
Have you seen the change of using certain words, certain tones have gotten you to better places?
Yeah, I'm super, super conscious of how I frame messages. I say certain things a certain way now, and it does change the response. Instead of like, can we do this? Let's do this, right? Like, there's many ways to say things. And part of that is through my training, you know, by being in that kind of mental health world where like talking and listening is so imperative. But it's also like looking at myself, like we talked about earlier in our interview, and just like being aware of like what I authentically want, and not being ashamed of that. And that's how I built these relationships up. And some of them work, you know, and I think it's really about, at the end of the day, it can't be forced, and it's about what 2 people are looking for. And you can say all the right words and be great, but like that person doesn't want a relationship. So it's not about you, it's about where you and another person both are in the field,
Yeah,
right? And are
yeah,
you
yeah,
meeting in the field, or are you separating?
yeah, yeah. Be ready and
Right,
yeah,
and it's
yeah,
beyond
yeah.
your control sometimes.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have you ordered the Genius Relationship online course yet? If not, you're missing out. Experts in the field share their top secrets on how you could take your relationship to the next level, how you could understand your partner, how you could connect and deepen your relationship. Go to geniusrelationships.com now to learn more about it and get your COVID-19 special today. Link in the show notes. Did you enjoy that episode? Could you do me a personal favor and subscribe and leave a review? It would mean a lot to me. Thank you so much and have an awesome day.